Welcome inside the Tiger Kickoff Show. We're back. We're ready to talk Missouri football, and we've got a whole season of TKS ready to roll for you. I'm Jacob Siciliano, and I'll be taking you through this new season. We got some new faces as well, our Missourian beat reporters. Let's meet them here. First up, Quentin Corpuel. Quentin, can you give us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sir. My name is Quentin Corpuel. I am a senior from Bethesda, Maryland. I love college football, and I'm excited to talk about it this year with you all. This will be my fourth year on the beat. I will have been on the Mizzou football beat my entire time in college, and I would love it to go out with a bang. Even if it's another 9-win season, those don't come around very often at Mizzou, and so looking forward to talking about it with you all.
There's a Mizzou football grandpa right there. He's ready to roll and share his wisdom. Zach Sweet.
Very well said, Quentin. I can only say that I've been on the beat half as long as you. Last year I ran this website, Truman's Tales, so it's pretty exciting to be back here this summer. Actually, I got to go to SEC Media Days and cover that. I'm looking forward to Thursday night, and I can't wait to talk ball with you guys.
SEC Media is a great time. Chase.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of you two. This is my third year on the beat. I've learned a lot here at Mizzou, but this is really exciting. I'm glad to be here with y'all.
Okay, so we met our analysts, right? And there's this huge pressing question that everybody's wondering right now, and it's who's going to play quarterback? And before we hear from these wonderful minds right here, let's hear from the guy that's making the decision, or right now, the indecision.
I felt like both quarterbacks played really well, really since the spring. I think they both established a leadership with the team, as evidenced by both being voted captains, and just didn't feel like I could make a decision without a little bit more information. And I didn't want to rush the decision. I think the decision of the starting quarterback for me personally is something that I'm going to have a lot of conviction about. And I felt like both of those guys, like I said, have played winning football throughout camp, and I have a lot of confidence that both can execute at a high level. So really the only other thing to measure was to put them in live competition. Nowadays, I'm never going to do that in practice, just because of the nature of college football now and the investments that we have in those positions. So the ability to play live football Thursday night, the ability to watch these guys prepare, see how they handle the preparation, I felt like was the best course of action, and that was the decision. Done that before, worked out pretty good.
All right, you heard it from Coach. 2 quarterbacks, 2 captains, only one will start. Quentin, can you take us through this QB battle?
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting because neither quarterback has played very much college football. Bo Pribula in 2 seasons where he played at Penn State backing up Drew Aller, 56 pass attempts, 94 rush attempts. And Sam Horn has played even less. I've played pickup basketball games to greater amounts of points, more than Sam Horn's career pass attempts at Mizzou. And so he just hasn't played very much. And so I think this Thursday is going to be really interesting to see both of them in live competition, even though it's against an FCS opponent. Whether it ends up being Bo or Sam, there will be a decision after the Central Arkansas game, as Eli Drinkwitz said a few days ago, of who's going to be the starting quarterback heading into that KU contest in week 2.
I think that's really important and really well said. So 2023, Drink talked about it a little bit, but they did the same thing in the South Dakota game, and Brady Cook ended up winning the battle. He got the start there. He played the first half. Sam Horn came in the second half. I'd expect to see something similar this year with the likes of Pribula and Horn. Now, who starts, who takes the field first, we won't actually know until Thursday night. But I'm really excited to see how they execute the little things and the details. And one thing Drink has preached all of camp is the leadership of both of them. Both of them are leaders. So I'm excited to see who's, when they're not playing, is engaged and who is going to step up and really win that job. And I do think it's important to note that Drink was very stern in saying that he will name a starting quarterback by week 2, and that's going to be important to establish a leader amongst his team.
You said look for the little things and the details. What are those little things and details that Drinkwitz and Missouri fans should be looking for in this competition?
Yeah, I would say executing throws for sure. I mean, both quarterbacks, Pribula is more known for his rushing ability. Horn has more arm strength. I just want to see how they execute the little things, the throws, the exchanges with the running backs, how they look with the offensive line moving out of the pocket. I think there's a lot of small things that we're going to be able to take away, and hopefully someone will emerge as the starting quarterback this week.
Chase, do you see any separation between these 2 guys right now?
It's hard to say. Based on fall camp and what we've talked to with everyone, I don't see that. I think this is the week to see what they've done throughout fall camp and put it on the field. It's going to be hard to weigh both players with it being an FCS game there's not going to be a lot to really take away. But whoever is kind of the most consistent player, I think, is going to have the edge. But if he's going to stick to the Kansas game being a starter, like you have to take what you can get with this game and see what they do.
Well, you said we can't weigh him right now. Let's try to weigh him here. Here's the stats that we have on these guys so far and how Beau Pribula and Sam Horn both stack up. Again, just 3 completions in the entire career of Sam Horn. Again, he missed last season with an arm injury from baseball. And then Beau Pribula, a majority of his stats coming from a second-half game against Wisconsin. You can see the 37 completions there with 9 touchdowns. Let's move on here to what we're looking on for the rest of the season for the Missouri Tigers. Is this going to be an up year, a down year, somewhere in the middle? Quentin, what should fans expect for the Missouri Tigers?
I think expectations heading into this year are somewhere between what they were prior to the 23 season, where people said maybe 8 wins, and expectations before last season where a lot of people, including myself, thought they were going to make the college football playoff. I think a good win range for this team is 7 to 9 wins. The road schedule, while lesser than the home schedule, I mean 6 home games to start the season, that's never happened before. It's tough on the back end. 4 out of those last 6 games are away from Columbia. And so I think they might get picked off in at least 1 or 2 of those spots in the back half of the season, continuing a trend of Drinkwitz coach Mizzou teams struggling a little bit on the road, although they were able to avenge some of that last season and the season before that. And so I would say 7 to 9 wins is a pretty good range. I'd be surprised if they went 6-6, and I'd be surprised if they went 10-2.
Sweet.
Yeah, well, Quinn seems to agree with what Vegas said. So Vegas has the win total at 7.5, right in Quinton's range. And I honestly think it's a fair assessment. I think fans are really high on this team. Fans have the expectation that they should win 10 games again. They've seen it the last 2 years. Program has never done that before. They've never had 3 consecutive 10-win seasons. Fans are expecting it. But with all the roster changeover, you don't know who your quarterback's going to be. Your home-heavy stack, your schedule is very light, but it's so tough to go on the road back-to-back weeks in the SEC, and they have to do that twice down the stretch. Realistically, it's 7 to 9 wins is the range where you can expect Mizzou to be this year, and 10 wins would be a really good season. 6 wins would be a letdown.
Chase, does this quarterback battle have any impact on the season outlook?
It will. We can't really predict what Sam Horn and Beau Pribula is going to look like with this offense until we see it on the field. But it is going to be the biggest decision-making factor in where they're going to end up. Because if you go one way, I think with Beau Pribula, you're looking more at a running quarterback, while Sam Horn, you're really relying more on the pass game. So you kind of have to pick and choose where you want to go with it. But it is the one decision that hasn't been made yet. Drinkwitz feels confident in the rest of the roster, but the quarterback is the only starter not named yet.
Looking ahead, Quentin, are there any games that you can pinpoint in specific that say the Tigers need to win this to validate themselves?
To validate themselves, well, I think they need to take care of business in the non-conference slate. I think they will go 3-0 against UMass, Central Arkansas, and Louisiana. Winning that Kansas game in week 2, I think that's going to set the tone for the rest of the season, just as I think back to the Kansas State game 2 years ago, that set the tone for the rest of the season. I think the KU game this year is in that same boat. But I think if you want to get to 10 wins and give yourself a shot at the college football playoff, I think 10-2 in the SEC get you into the college football playoff. 9-3 almost got into the college football playoff last year. I think they have to beat at least one of Texas A&M or Alabama in order to do so. And look, maybe Auburn or Oklahoma or South Carolina, they're really good teams. And if they win those games, those look really good at the end of the year. You're probably going to have to be one of the Aggies or the Tide in order to give yourself a shot at that 10-win marker.
You in the same boat, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, it's non-negotiable. You have to handle business in the non-conference. You have to look convincing doing so as well. I definitely agree. You win 10 games and you're in the college football playoff when you're playing the SEC, regardless of what your schedule looks like, regardless of the 6 straight home games to start the year. If you win 10 games, you're going to the college football playoff. It's as simple as that. Like Quinn said, 9 almost gets you in. But I think it's really important that Missouri doesn't overlook some of these home games to start the year. Kansas in week 2 is going to be a real challenge after what we saw from their offense on Saturday with Jalen Daniels and who was the running back?
Daniel Hushaw and
LaShawn Williams. LaShawn Williams. He looked awesome. But I think that's going to be a really tough game, and it's one that Mizzou definitely isn't going to overlook, and they can't overlook.
Yeah, well, we're talking a lot about what the season's going to look like. You guys are going to give us your predictions for the season. And our newest segment, Take It to the Grave. All right, fellas, this is how this segment is going to work. You guys are going to give us a prediction for this week. It will be for the season. Next and following weeks, it will be for that week. You will make your pick and, quote, take it to the grave, meaning you are so confident in your selection, in your prediction, that by taking it to the grave, you are willing to suffer a punishment of this wheel right here. We call it the wheel of misery, and it's not because we're in Missouri. It's because of the misery that will be all over this thing if one of your predictions is incorrect. So, for this first week, for our season predictions, they're worth 5 points. The rest of the weeks will be worth 1 point. At the end of the year, we will tally up the points and select a winner. That winner will receive an undisclosed prize. So now that we know the rules to the game, Quentin, you're batting leadoff.
I'm feeling spicy today. I am a walking bottle of Tabasco hot sauce, and I am comfortable saying that I believe in my mind, body, and soul that Ahmad Hardy will record at least 750 yards after contact this season. Not 750 yards, period, but 750 yards after contact. He had 1,012 last year at Louisiana Monroe. That would have been a top 20 Mizzou rushing season all time by itself. And I think the step up in competition might hinder his counting stats a little bit just because Troy and Coastal Carolina, with all due respect, that middle class of the Sun Belt is not the middle class of the SEC. And so I think that number is going to go down a little bit. 750 after contact, I think, would be pretty impressive for an SEC running back. And so I will take that to the grave with me, and I will suffer the consequences should Hardy not hit that number this season.
Well, you might be in good luck because he said literally on Saturday that he would rather run through a guy than juke him. So you might be in good company there. Sweet, what are you taking to the grave?
I just want to start by saying Chase and Quinn should get used to that board because I don't plan on losing all year long. But the first one I'm going to start you with is Brett Norfleet, tight end. It's a spot that Kirby Moore, Drink have talked about all offseason about how that needs to be a focal point of the offense. Norfleet's been banged up the last 2 years. His freshman year, we saw what he could do, 18 catches, 197 yards. His sophomore year last year, 26, 235 last year. I think he goes over 235 yards this year, and I think that's going to be an emphasis for this offense, is getting the ball to the tight end.
Chase?
Well, I apologize. I'm sticking with the offense. I'm going to go with Kevin Coleman Jr., incoming transfer receiver. I think he's going to lead this offense this year. I'm going to predict that he finishes with over 1,000 receiving yards this season. He was in the 900s last year with Mississippi State. I think as the leader, I wouldn't compare him to Luther Burden III, but he is kind of in that spot. I think he's going to do it and really lead this offense this year.
From the St. Louis area, and we're in number 3 in the slot, so you can't say in those ways he is Luther Burden.
Close.
I think that's mildly acceptable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
All right, they're in the books now. You can't go back on your takes, as that's our first ever segment of Take It to the Grave. All right, there is a football game on Thursday. We've talked a lot about the rest of the season going forward, but let's talk about this game against the University of Central Arkansas. It's an FCS opponent. Drinkwitz 4-0 against them. What should fans take away from a game against an FCS team?
I think you should really be paying attention to the depth. Should the game go how a lot of us think it's going to go, we're going to get to watch a lot of the second, third, and fourth stringers play in the second half. And I'm curious to see how those guys look because I think when you look at the top of college football, not just the SEC, but college football, teams that have depth are the ones that are winning, quality depth. And Drinkwitz has praised that depth, especially on the defensive side of the ball and with special teams as well. He's talked about that a lot this offseason. And so I'm curious to see how that depth looks in the third and fourth quarters, even though the competition is lesser than what Mizzou is going to be facing for most of this season.
Yeah, Missouri is 23-0 against FCS teams. I don't expect this to be a difficult game. Matter of fact, if it is close, something's gone terribly wrong. But I would point you in the direction of the interior running game of Central Arkansas. That was a focal point for them last year. Point of emphasis, they returned 3 starters on their offensive line. Landon Chambers, good running back for Central Arkansas. I'm excited to see how they go up against Missouri's front 7, which is set to be ridiculous this year. So this will be a good taste of what to expect from that front 7, and I'm excited to see that matchup play out.
Absolutely everybody's heard about the quarterback battle. Are there any other position groups that people should be watching in this first week?
I would say, I know, Zach, you talk a lot about the offensive line, but that is going to be a really important part of this game. Caden Green will be transitioning to left tackle instead of left guard. Whether or not he can take in that spot, I think we've seen that he can. He's a very talented player. You got Curtis Piegler coming in at right guard, who has only played 3 career appearances. How this offensive line compares to last year is going to be really interesting, and what kind of rotations Drinkwitz rolls out here.
Any groups you're looking at in specific, Quentin?
I'm going to be looking at the cornerback room. I think if we talk about potential weaknesses, there's not many on the Mizzou defense. I think that front seven, as you said, Zach, is going to put together a lot of highlights and a high level of production. But the cornerback room struggled at times last year. A lot of miscommunications that led to some big-time plays from the opposing offense. I'm curious to see how somebody like Stephen Hall, a transfer from Washington State, team captain last year, was one of few mildly redeeming qualities about what was a pretty terrible Wazoo defense. He's drawn a lot of praise in fall camp. I think if he can be an SEC caliber corner this year, I think that's going to pay huge dividends for a defense that seems pretty set everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to re-emphasize. I know Chase just talked about it, but the offensive line on Thursday is what I'm looking most at. You change your offensive line 2.5 weeks before the season opener, and red flags are being raised, regardless of how comfortable you are with that unit. Caden Green sliding out to left tackle, like he talked about. Dominic Jadis is someone who has been looked at as the glue all offseason. I'm really excited to see what he does at left guard. Connor Tollison coming off a knee injury at center. He's the familiarity. He's the continuity in the offensive line. But I'm just really excited to see what that unit has to offer and what they have to offer in their new positions, because each of them is taking on a different role than they're used to. Curtis Piegler, only 3 games. And then Keegan Trost won the right tackle job, but he's played all around the offensive line at Georgia Tech. So I'm really excited to see what that group looks like and how they look on Thursday.
Chase, what would success versus failure be in this game? Where is that line?
I think everyone's expecting a huge blowout, but as long as I think Drinkwitz mentioned that he really wants to just see the identity of this team, that's really what you're going to get out of this game, to see what these rotations look like, what these new pieces look like. You really just want to get a sense of what this team will be this year, because there is a lot of unknowns, and this is the first time we get to see that on display.
Well, we've got a guy who's going to help us uncover some of those unknowns. And when you don't know something, what do? You go to school. We got a guy, a former Cotton Bowl winning champion, Missouri linebacker for 2 years, Tyson Ellison, who's going to take us to school to learn everything we need to know about UCA.
Tiger fans, welcome back to school. It's the first day for all students on campus, including our esteemed football squad. We got to introduce you to your new classmates, starting with this guy right here, Ahmad Hardy. He's already had 1 year in school, 1,350 rushing yards, and a master's degree in the outside zone, as you can see here. Now, people argue about whether or not this competition level will translate to the SEC. I'm saying he translates to a better offensive line that leaves running backs untouched on said outside zone. Touchdown 9, now just make that 29, you're good to go. Well, the receivers help in the run game too with that motion. That's Josh Manning on the motion here, but that's really Kevin Coleman's forte. I mean, think about it. Jackson State, Louisville, Mississippi State, Mizzou. He's motioned all over the place. That's going to translate right to the football field. Number 1 to number 2 receiver in the slot. That affects the defense more than the offense. They mess up their assignments, don't know where he went. He's wide open down the field, 15 yards on 3rd and 8. That is a magic play, all because of the motion, first down. Which brings us to the $1.5 million question. What do we know about Bo? Well, we know this was his biggest sample size here against Wisconsin. He's an established athlete and a tough, gritty runner. Maybe not the most polished. That'll come with reps. As you can see here, play action play goes the wrong direction on the handoff, but he's on scholarship. He can make up for most of his mistakes. The problem is the times where he can't. Here we go. He's going to fumble this read option play here. Recovers the ball, but he's flustered, and the very next snap is a delay of game. Can't get the offense reset in time. We're hoping not to see that with the first assignment of 2025. Beat the UCA Bears. How are we going to accomplish that? Well, they're a tough team because of this Bear front. It makes it one-on-one pass rush. As you can see, 5 people at the line of scrimmage, 5 offensive linemen. That's going to mess with your time in the passing game, especially for a young QB who hasn't started in the game yet. As you can see, it also hurts the outside zone. You penetrate on that first outside blocker, then it blows up the play. Bradley Clark here, this defensive tackle, he's shown he can get penetration, returning preseason all-conference player. That's a TFL. Just like this TFL on a very similar play, right, on the outside zone. Mizzou's got a lot of rotation this year in that offensive line. Can't allow that to happen if you want to have success, not just in week 1, but for the rest of the season. And you get that cleaned up in this first opponent. As you can see, that Bear front means it's cover 1 or cover 0. This team is not going to be able to beat the nasty wideouts in one-on-one coverage. They're just flat out not. The talent level does make a difference. As much as we want to say we don't know, we know. And then you see this team very accomplished. Their biggest strength is inside the tackle. That's guard, center guard, pancaking the entire defensive line, as you'll see there. GY counter on this play. The guard and the tight end blocking on those pullers. There you go. I mean, goodness gracious. How do you beat that? You beat it with an SEC linebacker. Enter Tristan Newsom. He's going to scrape from the backside, diagnose the play. That's a TFL. Death row defense is going to rally to make that play. That's the biggest difference. Second biggest difference, this is for row field. The noise is going to be out of this world in week 1, even on a Thursday game. So this is Will McIlvain, 7th-year senior here on this play. He's going to communicate, hey, there's pressure coming. Hey, there's pressure coming. Watch the shrug of the shoulders right before this play comes off. Hey, what's going on? Palms up. That's bad body language. And as you see, that translates to a very bad outcome on that play. Now, what they're going to try to do is turn that week 1 momentum against us. Here you see the defensive line jumps off sides. What does that mean? Free play for the UCA team, even when they throw these picks, because their starting quarterback, or who's projected to be the starter, has 12 total completions. Death row defense will get a pick. It doesn't matter if you jump off sides. So the number 1 thing you should be writing down if you're on the defense for Mizzou this year, I will not jump off sides. Dojo, don't jump off sides. This is your game to win, right? No matter who's at quarterback, you're an SEC team. You have to avoid this upset. That starts with discipline on both sides of the ball. Low penalties. Mizzou wins this one. Jacob, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Tyson. Right now, there's still a lot of questions about this Missouri football team. We haven't seen them on the field. So we got a little bit here. We're going to talk about strengths, weaknesses, and the unknowns of Missouri Tiger football. Quentin Corporal, first up. You got a strength, a weakness, or an unknown for us?
I'm starting out on a bit of a whimper, and I have a weakness, but we're saving the strengths for later. So I think that's okay. I had mentioned it a little bit ago, and I'll say it again now, the cornerback room. That was the source of a lot of mishaps last season. I think of South Carolina, that touchdown down the left sideline to Nick Harbor. I think of Vanderbilt, the opening touchdown from Diego Pavia to Joseph McVay deep down the field, where guys either just miscommunicated or straight up got burned. And that's what happened both of those times. I'm looking for, again, you've talked a little bit about, I believe, Malachi Henry, the freshman All-American receiver last season for Central Arkansas. Even though he is not a Ryan Williams or a Nick Harbor, still a really good receiver. And so I'm curious to see how somebody like Dre Norwood, or if he gets matched up against Toriana Pride or Stephen Hall, how those Mizzou cornerbacks stack up, because I think that is going to be a huge swing factor for how successful that defense can be this season.
Z, you taking strength, weakness, or unknown?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the unknown. I think we've touched on it a bunch. I mean, obviously, we led the show at the quarterback. That's the focal point. That is the biggest unknown. Nobody knows who the starting quarterback is going to be, so I'm really excited to see who that's going to be. But I'm also excited to see about unknown, the interior offensive line. Dominic Jadis left guard. We got Connor Tullison at center, and we have Caden Piegler at right guard. That interior offensive line is going to be important this year in the scheme, especially if Bo Prabula wins the starting job and using his mobility to get outside, especially with the run-heavy attack of Ahmad Hardy trying to get to the outside and him talking about how he likes the inside zone. I'm really excited to see what that looks like in week 1 and beyond.
So, are you going to be giving us here some good news? Because we got the bad news with Quentin, we got the I don't know with Zach. Do you have good news for us? Are you choosing strength?
Yeah, I will. It's a little awkward because I'm actually picking the defense, but I'll just talk about every other unit besides the secondary. You look at Damon Wilson and Zion Young as those rushers at the passer. I mean, they're going to be a dominant duo this season, I feel. You look at the defensive line as a whole, I mean, Chris McCullen in his return is going to be the leader of that team. I expect him to lead in alongside Sterling Webb is also coming into the program. And I'll talk about later Braylon Henderson, who was a really late transfer. But you also have Dalen Carnell at safety, who I think in his last year here, he could really take a step up and have a career year. I would expect him to be one of the biggest leaders on the defense.
Right on. And here's a look at Missouri's 12-game schedule for this season. It's the first day of school today here at the University of Missouri, and obviously a lot of that's about learning and growing in knowledge, but one of the most fun parts is meeting new people. So what we're going to do here at the Tiger Kickoff Show is we're going to have our beat writers introduce to you a player from the Missouri Tiger football team that they think you should meet. Quentin?
Yeah, I'll go first. I will go to the special teams game. I don't think we've talked too much about that yet. I'm going to go on kickoff return, Tavares Jones. He's been with this program for a few years. He's a redshirt junior now, and he hasn't carved out much of a role for himself until now. He looks to be the lead kickoff returner for Mizzou, who hasn't really gotten much of anything these past couple of years on kickoff or punt returns. So Drinkwitz has touted his explosiveness, his ability to make people miss, and I think if he's even a decent kickoff returner, that will be a major step forward for Mizzou on special teams in 2025.
Z?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Donovan Ologbade. He is awesome. He's a freshman wide receiver from IMG Academy. He's played 3 years there, 4-star recruit, number 75 overall. Donovan Ologbade, he might not start on day one because Mizzou's receivers are dynamic with Kevin Coleman and Marquise Johnson and Joshua Manning, but expect Ologbade to carve out a role by the end of the year. I think he is the most polished freshman on this team.
Yeah, and I briefly mentioned Braylon Henderson out of Ohio. He spent 4 years there. He only got here on May 3rd, so he hasn't had a lot of time to integrate himself in, but it seems like he has throughout fall camp and has really been embraced by his team. I expect him to be a really important part of the defensive line this year.
All right, this isn't going to take us to the grade, but really quickly, give me your choice of wins for the Missouri Tigers season. Quinn?
I'll be optimistic and go with 9 with the opportunity for 3 straight 10-win seasons heading into the postseason.
Pretty cool in the bowl game, Z.
I'm going to go 8-4 this year, 8-4.
I will also go 9-3.
So those are your predictions for the schedule. I think I got the Tigers rolling here. I got them 9-3 as well. I would love to see a 3rd straight bowl win for the Tigers that get them to that 10-win mark and do something that has not been done before in Missouri history. But want to remind you guys that we're going to be here all season long on the Tiger Kickoff Show. We're going to be covering reviews, previews, and everything you need to know on social media. Go check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and make sure to give us a follow because we are going to have nonstop content rolling your way. I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in and watching this, and thank our wonderful beat writers for taking time out of their busy days. Again, Quentin Corporal, Zach Sweet, and Chase Jeems for taking their time to talk some Missouri Tiger football. Again, we'll be reviewing and previewing every Monday and Thursday for the rest of 2025. Thanks for watching.
I'm curious to see how somebody like Stephen Hall, a transfer from Washington State, team captain last year, was one of a few mildly redeeming qualities about what was a pretty terrible Washington this year. I think that's going to pay huge dividends for a defense.
You're batting leadoff. 4.
I'm feeling spicy today. I am a walking bottle of Tabasco.
So great.
And I am comfortable saying
750 yards after contact this season. Not 750 yards period, but 750 yards after contact. He had 1,012 last year at Louisiana Monroe. That would have been a top 20 Mizzou rushing season all time.
Tiger fans, welcome back to school. It's the first day for all
That's
students
me?
on...
Yeah. Is that me?
McElvain, and here's the first play, and it's going to be the star running back, makes a move, he's into the secondary, and look at him scoot, across the 30 to the 20, the 10, and the 5, and he scores from the first play from scrimmage.
Got Kevin Coleman in the slot at the top of the screen, maybe matched up against the safety one-on-one. That was Kramer in motion, and a crossing route complete indeed, and room to run for Kevin Coleman to the pylon. He's in. Hardy once again up the middle, a lot of green grass for Ahmad Hardy across the 40-yard line. The freshman rips off another one. 2nd and 10 for Missouri. Brady Cook takes off. Wide open